You don't need memorization to get fluent in Spanish. Here's what you actually need instead. If you don't know me, my name is Hamid. I'm 15 years old and I became a polyglot at 13 after getting fluent in Spanish in the summer of 2022. Here's how I sounded before then.
Hola, estoy comiendo comida. Voy a mejorar mi español.
Y en este video voy a hablar de cómo aprender el español y que no tienes que memorizar para aprender el español. Memorización no funciona bien para aprender un idioma. En este video voy a hablar de por qué la memorización es mierda. Bueno. I quickly found out that there's a method to getting fluent and what fluency actually is. And I'm lucky that I found this out. I watched different YouTubers, I did a ton of research. And long story short, I found that fluency is just being able to speak and understand the language. Because fluency is I speak, you understand, and we switch. You speak, I understand. And that back and forth, I speak, understand, switch, you speak, I understand. That back and forth is what a conversation is. And so if I wanted to get fluent in terms of a conversation, I needed to exercise those two. And I did more research on how different YouTubers exercise those two aspects of the language. I found this YouTuber named Language Lord. He talked about two different exercises he used to learn Spanish, and they followed a very simple pattern. For the speaking exercise, he would speak and then understand what he was saying, so try to understand how to say what he wanted to say, and he would repeat that. And for a listening exercise, he would listen to native Spanish content, then try to understand what they're saying, and then repeat that until he was done with the content. That was it. And so these two essentially ladders to climb, lur and sir, listen, understand, repeat, and speak, understand, repeat. There are different exercises people use to achieve this. Now, another YouTuber named Shalma, he got fluent in like 20-30 days, and the way he essentially climbed these ladders, the way he implemented this was by just speaking with natives. And that makes sense, right? If you just spoke with natives, you'd be listening to native Spanish, right? And then you'd be speaking Spanish because you'd be in a conversation, right? And then it would just repeat that over and over again. And so that's how Shalma achieved it. He got fluent in 20 days or 30 days. Language Lords, he did it in one way where he broke it down into two exercises and then later on started speaking with natives. Now, I did something very similar to him where I would use two exercises. His method of doing the exercises were slightly different. I tried his methods and they were good, but they didn't work that well for me. But I tweaked them and made it into my own methods, which I used to get fluent. And I hyperfixated on those during the summer of 2022. And after a total of 120 hours of studying, I went on a call with a native. I was able to have a fluent conversation with them for an hour, and it was just continuing on. And so I made a video talking about the speaking exercise I did, which I call narrate, elaborate, contemplate. In this video, I'm going to talk about the listening exercise I did to understand Spanish. So I went over how to climb the SIR ladder in another video. Here's how you climb the LUR ladder, essentially the listen, understand, and repeat ladder. And that is fundamentally how you get fluent. And so as you know, I discovered this through a YouTuber named Language Lords. And what he did was he would find native Spanish content and he would just go through that video and what they said word for word. And so I implemented that and tweaked it a little. And now I call that exercise transcript training. Very similar to what he did. It was a really smart method that he created. And it made a lot of sense because we as kids, that is what we did to learn Spanish. We would listen to our parents and try to understand them, and that would just be a constant repetition. And when we talk about immersion, that is what it is. You constantly are listening to Spanish, native Spanish, not fake Spanish, native Spanish, over and over again, and trying to understand it. And when I say fake Spanish, that just means slow Spanish, right? You're listening to super fast, like accent native Spanish, rather than hola, me llamo Hamid, me gusta hablar en español, right? And so this is the exercise I use to get vocabulary down. You'd think that to learn vocabulary in Spanish, you'd have to use Anki and memorization, and especially for like irregular verbs, you think they have to memorize all of the tenses. In this video, I'm going to go through exactly how to learn Spanish, but not just learn Spanish, exactly how to still learn and internalize those words without having to memorize them. Okay, so I'm in Netflix right now, and you're not going to be able to see, but you should be able to hear and hopefully see the subtitles as well. And here I'm going to show you exactly how to do this exercise. So here I have DeepL open, and here I have SpanishDict.com open. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this exercise. So first, we want to do it with subtitles.
Este lugar es un descontrol. Parece un club.
So there he said, este lugar es un descontrol. Now let's say we don't know what un descontrol is. We go here and we write descontrol. Let me just move this. And here we get an an uncontrolled or an out of control. And to double check this, if you watch a show like Netflix, or if you use, for example, YouTube and you're watching like a TED Talk, then there are actually human written subtitles in English, so we can get the actual meaning in English. So this place is an out of control, or let's see what that means. It would mean in English. This place is a mess. Okay, what about in this directly translation? So you can see this is English handwritten by humans. This is like automatic, and here it's saying this place is out of control. So makes sense. This place is a mess. This place is out of control. Este lugar es un descontrol. Parece un club. Un club is a bar or a club, I guess it could also be. The translation here gives us a bar and a playground. Makes sense, a club, like Social said. Now that we've understood this sentence, we want to go back and take off the subtitles. And now we're going to listen to it without the subtitles to see if we can understand it.
Este lugar es un descontrol, parece un club.
And then notice how he said, este lugar es un descontrol. He didn't pronounce the S's, but we still understand what he's saying. That is key when it comes to this exercise. So let's continue. And now you can try, if you're at my level, I would probably not use subtitles directly, but as a beginner, you definitely probably want to use subtitles.
¿Por qué no vamos a la oficina? Charlamos más tranquilos, hablamos mejor.
¿Por qué no vamos a la oficina? Charlamos más tranquilos. And then it doesn't say what she said after that, but she said hablamos mejor. So, ¿por qué? We know is why. No vamos a la oficina. Let's say you don't know what la oficina is. You write down. La oficina. The office. Perfect. So, why don't we go to the office? Estamos más tranquilos. What does tranquilo mean? Alright, we write it here. Tranquilo means quiet or quieter. Because when you say más tranquilo, it means quieter or calmer. Okay, great. Now let's see what the subtitle said here, just to confirm. Let's go talk to my office, it'll be quieter. Okay. Now we go back again to see if we can understand it, what she said without subtitles.
Es un club.
¿Por qué no vamos a la oficina? Charlamos más tranquilos, hablamos mejor. ¿Sí?
¿Por qué no vamos a la oficina? Now notice how again she speaks way faster. She says, ¿por qué no vamos a la oficina? Hablamos mejor. Right? They don't pronounce the S's, and this because it's an Argentinian show. Now, in the case if it's a verb that we don't understand how to conjugate, for example, tenemos. He says, no tenemos nada que hablar. Tenemos. Now, first you can translate it to get the direct meaning, but honestly, using DeepL or any translator for verb conjugations is honestly kind of bad. It just doesn't work well. Instead, we want to go here and write tenemos, or you can write the verb tener, right? Either way, the verb will come up. And then here, it will give you, tenemos is the we have. It means we have, or it can also mean we are having, but not all websites are going to have very clear meanings. And then it's the present tense of tener, which means to have and could mean to be, but in this case, to have. So, okay, very simple. And this is these are the rest of the conjugations. So what I like to do is, when I find an irregular verb like tener, and I want to be able to understand it, I would ask myself, do I know all of the different tenses of tener? And I would ask myself, okay, how would I say we have? All right, tenemos. How would I say we would have? Tendría. Now, if I didn't know that, I would go here and write see tendría, or sorry, tendríamos technically, because it's we. The past tense of the point for we have, or we had, it would be tuvimos. And then for the line in the past would be tenía, and then how would I say the haber form? It would be he tenido. I hope. Yeah, tenido. So the point is to essentially test these different ones to see if you know them in Spanish. And when you find the verb here, then you can test it out. And a lot of times you don't actually know what it might be. And a lot of times they'll speak extremely quickly, so you have to find it out. As another example, I'm going to continue it, and I'm just going to continue with subtitles.
No tenemos nada que hablar.
Si se lleva a Álvaro del colegio va a sufrir.
Mira, espera.
Si sigue siendo así, va a perder a su hijo.
¿Perdón?
Si realmente conociera a Álvaro, sabría que está equivocado.
Mira, espera. Escúchame. Tenés razón. Pero créeme que si lo enfrentamos es peor.
Pero no nos podemos quedar de brazos cruzados.
For example, no podemos quedarnos de brazos cruzados. So this is a quote that she's saying. This directly means, if you want to translate it, it directly means, it is saying we cannot stand idly by or idly. I don't know how to say that word. The good thing about this is that it gives you several words for it. So passively, aside. And what brazos cruzados means is crossed arms. And so when we say, to remain oneself of crossed arms is to essentially do nothing. It's to be standing by and let it happen. And let's look at the translation it gives. It gives us to stand idly. We can't just stand here and do nothing. And so based on that, this is an important thing, based on this logic of quedar, to remain, oneself, in this case it's ourselves, right? No podemos quedarnos, of crossed arms. How would I say, I'm standing here doing nothing? Well, I would say, I remain myself, so me quedo, of crossed arms, de brazos. I stand idly by. Do you see how we use the logic, right? Me quedo brazos cruzados. And then you can also put it like this. And then there's other ways to say it, obviously, literally, without doing anything or nothing. So also when it comes to quotes, the best way to understand it is to just find the logic of it and then try to use it in different tenses and different scenarios and contexts, and that's the best way to sort of get the phrases down. Now this is the best way to learn vocabulary, because now the next time you study, you don't start from this second of 35. You go back to the beginning where we started, which was here.
Este lugar es un descontrol, parece un club.
¿Por qué no vamos a una oficina? Charlamos más tranquilos, hablamos mejor.
No
¿Sí?
tenemos nada que hablar.
Si se lleva a Álvaro del colegio va a sufrir.
Mira, espera.
And you see the goal here is to understand this all without subtitles. Now, what we just went through right now, we went through maybe 10 seconds. The goal is to be able to understand an hour of native Spanish content, just like this. And so this is the best way to learn vocabulary in Spanish, because now we're repeating it over and over and over again. We're repeating the vocab that we already use over and over and over again. Because either way, there's gonna be repetition. You need repetition to learn a language. You need repetition to remember things. But this is way better repetition, because this is repetition in context, okay? You aren't learning the word descontrol. You're learning decontrol. Why? Because he said decontrol, right? Because he's saying it in a native way. And when he says it in a native way, you learn it the native way. And so when you now pronounce it and say it, you're probably going to say decontrol, and you're going to sound more native. And then you're going to be able to understand natives better. It's a full-blown immersion. People say that they want to travel to a Spanish-speaking country to learn. This is a great substitute for that, because a lot of us can't travel to a Spanish-speaking country. A lot of us can't immerse ourselves that well. So this is one of the best ways. This is the method I use to learn vocabulary. Fundamentally, this is memorization. But there's a difference between scrolling on Anki and watching a show like this and studying the show. Memorization is more so repetition with no logic. Here, we're trying to understand the logic. We're trying to understand it all. And eventually you can we want to understand as much as possible when it's spoken quickly. The long-term, the advanced goal of this is to understand it sped up. And this is what I did to even fast-track this, to really understand it. Imagine how fast it'll sound if it's like this. Let's, for example, go to here.
Sos lo suficientemente inteligente para saber que esto se trata de otra cosa. Se trata de colaborar con el otro, de aceptarnos a pesar de la rivalidad.
So that's the regular speed. Now let's go back, and we want to be able to understand it when it's sped up.
Sos lo suficientemente inteligente para saber que esto se trata de otra cosa.
You can hear how crazy fast it is. But trust me, when you understand that fast level and go back, it will be easier.
Se trata de colaborar con el otro, de aceptarnos a pesar de la rivalidad. Dicho esto, pueden retirarse. Está Víctor esperándolos con la pintura y la ropa pertinente. Muchas gracias, chicos.
So that is the exercise, transcript training, and I've showed you now exactly how to do it with a piece of Spanish content. I've showed you how to make it advanced by speeding it up. And so I really hope this video helped you, and I really hope that you actually use this to learn Spanish vocabulary. And this is the best, like this over memorization and flashcards is way better. This is so much better than flashcards and memorization, because we are learning through natives. We are listening to how they say it. We're not reading, right? Because the goal is learn, is listen, understand, repeat. So this is exactly what we're doing. Listen, understand, repeat, and we're using these two websites to achieve it. DeepLSpanishDict.com. It also helps to be able to understand the Spanish grammar. And so if you want one-on-one coaching with me, where I coach you through exactly how to use these exercises and exactly how to achieve similar results as me in Spanish, then check the description. And I hope this video helped you, bro. Stay humble.